Hey, we're back. Hey, thank you so much for your patience. Justin, thank you for recouping that. Our stream, as you can tell, is from multiple sources, and we're all at home. So Justin mans the stream where we all dump our cameras and videos to him, and then he produces a nice, brilliant output. Well, that croaked, and we had to reboot that. So we're back. Hi. Adam, where were you at again for the second?
So,
we're not going to go back to the beginning though this time.
No, it's still showing pause for me. I just want to make sure. Can everyone hear us? Are we actually live, Asher? On my end, it's showing that we're paused again.
Asher's not. He said he got booted from Vimeo and Riverside. According to, and you might have to refresh Facebook, but it says I'm streaming. I got perfect streaming again. Okay.
Well, I'm going to take your guys' word for it. I'll just keep talking then. Obviously, you guys can stop me. Last thing we were talking about was the GPS. I hope you guys all caught that. There's a static GPS location data when they check in and check out on the mobile app. And that's visible when you're on SM6 schedule as well. As far as SM6 goes, we've had some releases over the past month. We had further updates to the managed subscription page, including including the full kind of billing history you guys can now utilize if you're administrators. Updated the new trial process for new signups. We implemented that SM Quick Text feature, which we kind of hinted at last time around. We have numerous bug fixes that I was gonna list here originally, but I was just like, I think it'll be just best for you guys to review the release notes because a lot of them are very specific in nature as far as what they were fixing. And then just around the corner, we have 663 about to come out, which has some quick add improvements, which some of you guys listening might get your ears perked up here. It's going to allow further account details to be added if you need them. They're out of the way, so if there's not something you need, you can just sort of bypass them. But we've improved the UI on the new account creation section and allowed you guys to start adding some of those detailed features if you need. So this is phase one of a multi-phase process. We'll continue to kind of throughout the next 6 or more months. As we find time around other projects. This will basically always be kind of like a secondary thing when we have time. We want to be implementing this on the order screen as well as the repeat customer screen. There's some things I want to do there. So hope you guys are excited for that. You guys might also remember we talked about a new QA hire last time around, and John's been with us now for a little over 2 weeks, kind of getting the just generally acquainted. You guys know how it is when you start a new job, but he's been doing great. He's already helped with a couple of hotfix releases. He's been doing some mobile testing and some desktop testing. So really, really great to work with so far, and we're excited to kind of continue that forward.
And we're looking for new devs.
Correct. I wasn't sure if we were gonna mention that quite yet. Yeah. We are looking for some devs. So
that process might take a little longer. We were lucky to find John, but this whole pandemic, we've been lucky to find a couple key people. So we're doing well on that front, but yeah, beefing up the team a little bit, and so we can go a little faster on some of these features that we really need to get out there quickly, right? SMS text, obviously drip campaigns for SMS would be phenomenal. That's on the short-term roadmap as close as we can get it. Updating credit card processing, right? Making sure you guys can save credit cards, attaching contracts for recurring payment, and so forth. And we got a couple of things down the road that we want to plug in that make that whole thing easier. And in addition to the Fill My Schedule enhancement, self-help, and custom fronts that we've been talking about now for a while. So big changes coming.
Yeah. Just want to make sure that stream's still going okay. Everyone in chat, you want to kind of...
Yeah, I saw on Facebook, it looked like everything's going well. Although someone's typing a mile a minute, and not on mute.
For me, the stream keeps telling me it's ended, and when I refresh, it kicks us back. But
it started a new stream.
Gotcha.
Oh yeah, you tried to go to the old stream?
Gotcha.
Silly goose.
I was typing a mile a minute because I was sharing our new stream with the group. Sorry about that.
Gotcha.
That's all right.
Okay. Very well. Well, if any other comments come in, we'll address those as we have time here. But I want to kind of go into some SMUG posts. Remember, we're looking at kind of the last month plus, kind of highlight some SMUG posts that come in, generate some discussion over that, and so forth. First one kind of alludes to the point that Joe was just making. This one was from Pete, talking about a particular SMS blast provider. His was Text Magic, I think. But they brought this huge discussion about SMS marketing, and it's definitely something that is on our roadmap. It's one of the highest priority items that we have currently. We're looking at early kind of Q1 2022. Want to get that out prior to you guys having your spring campaigns and so forth. But really, the kind of thing I wanted to talk about this was twofold. One, it was a really great discussion from both Joe and I, being able to kind of talk to you guys on what is on the roadmap, and what we're working on, the FMS project itself. We're working on we just started a huge credit card update. We'll keep you guys posted on probably in the next Q&A. We'll have some pretty juicy details for you guys. But also that the main reason that this is prioritized after the credit card update, because this is a deep discussion that we had, the SMS marketing. We obviously know it's critical. People check SMS, at a far greater percentage than the email. But you can currently with ServiceMonster still do an SMS blast if you need to. And that's really where it boiled down to choosing the higher priority than the other, was you can still do some of the functionality with current ServiceMonsters. So Mary, do you kind of want to show how to set up an export campaign, and then you guys could use a third-party vendor to still send a blast out if you would so like?
And while that's setting up, I'll just add real quick that we are adding, SMS blasting, and that, yes, you can do it as part of an export process here. But we're looking to have that wrapped up before your busy season. So before March hits, right? And you really need to fire these out to boost your client retention. That's kind of our target. So we know things are slowing down now and marketing efforts are getting turned down. So that also weighed into the decision of how to prioritize this stuff, right? The fact that you can do it, Mary's going to show you that. And then also that, the big pushes are going to happen come end of April, beginning of March. And that's when we hope to have this in. And sorry to drag this in, but this goes into SMTP too, because this is going to be the same damn thing. And it's going to be a nightmare if we don't address it to begin with. SMTP is your email service, right? And we've talked about this at length multiple times, but I'll just take a minute. So if you're using email within ServiceMonster and you haven't done your own SMTP settings within the settings section of ServiceMonster, then you're using ServiceMonster's default SMTP service, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. Everybody uses that one pipeline, okay? Thousands of users pushing email through that one pipeline. If you're pushing things like invoices and payments, requests for payment, not a problem. If you're doing marketing campaigns, could be flagged as spam if the user flags it as spam, if you don't meet some certain requirements in your spam laws, if right, if you didn't acquire your email address well. If you do that, you can temporarily tarnish the reputation of ServiceMonster's pipeline. And then everybody has some email deliverability issues, in addition to general email deliverability issues you might have with a generic SMTP service anyway. Okay. All that being said is, if you use the ServiceMonster SMTP pipeline by default, which a lot of companies don't provide out of the box, then you risk some level of deliverability, of getting in the inbox. If you use your own, which there are free services out there, Google provides one, gives you up to 500 emails a day or whatever, you can plug those SMTP credentials, then you're off ServiceMonster's pipeline. The exact same thing's going to happen with SMS. So here's how we're going to solve it. We're going to give you a default SMTP and SMS service for client communication only, no marketing, zero, zilch, to keep the pipelines clean. If you want to do marketing, email marketing or SMS marketing, get your own SMS and SMTP services. They're not expensive, and sometimes they're even free. This way you can keep your pipelines clean. We're going to give you that option when we roll this out. So somebody asks, well, I don't understand, you already do text. How come you can't just whip this up? Well, I'm trying to open up a little bit the technical complexities to say, we need to make sure you can plug in your own SMTP services and not use ones that we might be providing by default. Same thing with SMS. So what we're going to end up giving you then is two platforms. So now here's the rub. Here's where you get value out of this. You could set up two different SMTP or SMS services. One for your client communication pipeline, which you manage, you control, and is clean. That means that you have the highest deliverability rating possible. And you don't muck that up by doing your own marketing. You instead get another SMTP and SMS service where you do all of your bulk follow-up and marketing. And that way, those two wires never cross and you own them both. That would be the best business decision. And it's not going to cost you more than 30 or 40 bucks a month. So that's my suggestion. So what Mary's about to show you here, being able to create a campaign to export your list so that you can send it to an SMS third party. Sorry for the speed bump there, Adam.
No worries. Yeah, so for this, I'm going to go ahead and open up marketing on the left-hand side menu. And then right from here, actually, we can click plus campaign to start building our marketing campaign. For this one, we are going to choose an export list, which means we are compiling a spreadsheet of our current client's information. This is great for, again, using it with an outside service, or if you're doing anything yourself that you want to be outside of the ServiceMonster system. So I'm selecting that. Then we'll start building our audience. Now for this campaign, I'm just going to go in and select basic, and I'm going to pick all residential for this. You can use a basic option like this, or right from the get-go, you can select the standard option if you want to be a bit more specific, or advanced option if you kind of want to build it all from scratch. I'm just going to pull up the basic one, and that'll show me kind of a pre-example of everything. We can give it a name, and I'll just say that this is text export. And then I'll click save. So that's going to set up my campaign for me. And I'm going to go ahead in here now and add in a couple more filters for the specific campaign that we want. So I can do that by clicking on the filter button right here. On the left-hand side, I can see the filters we have. On the right-hand side, I can see a preview of the accounts that are included in. So for this campaign, I'm going to go ahead and add in a filter that makes sure our accounts have a phone number attached to them. So we'll add in the filter account phone and just have that be not blank. So that's for phone one. So that makes sure they do have a phone number added into the system. Then we'll also make sure we're not reaching out to anyone who's asked us not to contact them by phone. So we'll add in the filter account do not contact phone, and we'll set that to false, which means they're not marked as do not contact for phone. We'll also say, for example, maybe we want to reach out to people that it's been more than 6 months since we've worked with them. So I'm going to go ahead and add in the filter order last invoice date is greater than 6 months. So that just means I'm just going to be reaching out to anyone who it's been more than 6 months since I've worked with them. Then when I click OK, that's all set up. And to run the campaign and get the spreadsheet of these clients' information, we'll click Run Campaign. Oh, save first, of course. Then Run Campaign. You can click Run Campaign right here in this window. It'll have you confirm that. And then it's going to generate that file for me. So when I click Close, this page will refresh. And I'll see right down here, I have my export file. So I can click on this to download that onto my computer, and then you have it to use.
And what else is cool about that too is it generates activities along with it, right? So you can go to your account and see that it was part of that export campaign.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Also, if you have campaigns already created, like an email campaign or so forth, that you just want to use that, those campaigns, you can also run an export within them. We just have a separate option here to kind of reduce confusion. So if you guys already have one set up you want to use, you could just go into that. Instead of running the email campaign, there'll be an option, which I think Mary's trying to pop up right now, but there'll be an option in there that says, hey, don't run the campaign, just generate an export file.
Yeah, and I can see that on this mail campaign. I have that option when I go to run the
Does it
campaign.
generate the activities when you run it this way, Adam?
I believe so, but might be something to have me test afterwards.
Yeah, that would be interesting. No, I didn't know you guys added that. That's cool.
So yeah, kind of a long discussion on that front. We're definitely going to be pushing this SMS marketing, and there's a lot that goes into that. There's a lot on your guys' end. You'll probably want to be researching as well in terms of spam laws. When you're sending things out via SMS that are tied directly to marketing, the laws are much stricter than they are when it comes to sending emails. And the email spam laws, there's already a lot there, right? Because email's been around for 25, 30 years more. So they've had more time.
Oh man,
to sort of implement these laws.
feel old.
SMS is a much, newer, in air quotes, kind of technology in terms of reaching your clients in this manner. So they've definitely jumped on trying to get ahead of that. And so the laws are much stricter. So just to kind of.
Well, and it's a good debate too, right? There's lots of discussion on the boards about, whether you should even contact your clients via SMS from a marketing point of view. Payment confirmation, scheduling confirmation, or that kind of stuff I see, which ServiceMonster's had wired in for years. Bulk marketing campaign. Yeah. I dragged my feet a little bit. Are there other companies that have it wired in as part of their CRM ish? And I say ish because there's different levels of integration as far as that goes, right? Being able to do it is the big thing. I know. And then, should you be doing it is left as a business decision, not a technical limitation. So that's one reason why we're hot to put it in. But at the same time, then you have to have the conversation. Are you going to utilize it? What are you going to utilize it for? How aggressive are you going to be with it? And I think, to Adam's point, you don't want to get a global reputation across multiple channels as having an issue. There's some class action lawsuit or something like that about, I don't know. Anyway, some inside baseball there for those in the know. But I think that it's a tool that gets results, and it gets results now because a lot of people aren't using it. And a lot of people aren't using it is because they're worried about using it to seem like they're spammy. And when you get spammy text, you go, delete, and then you move on with your day. So it isn't killing us right now. But at the same time, marketers ruin everything. Sorry, Asher.
Yeah. Sales and marketing,
man alive. So eventually it'll be, so I'm just saying it's effective. Yes. Should you utilize it? Yes, I think you should utilize it. Should you indulge in it? Absolutely not. Use it like a red hot iron. Don't use it because you need to pay the bills. Use it because you just want to fluff things up a little bit, like a souffle. Yep. Yeah.
And there's some things we're putting in to help you guys with, specific opt-in language and things like that. But this thing it works much better with clients you've already done business with, right?
Yeah.
Like as far as the laws go. So,
well, even then you got to be careful, right? So,
yep. Anyways, we can move off on that. Obviously, we know it's an important feature, and we appreciate all of the kind of back and forth and dialogue and letting us know that you guys are definitely passionate about that. So, but the next one is a little bit more recent post from Josh. Is asking if there's a minimum user level in the mobile app to see the route mapped all at once. So there's a feature in both SM6 and on mobile where you can basically tap the route header, and you can use Google to map out the entire day's route rather than just one at a time. And the answer, it kind of went through a couple of things with Josh and I, but the answer is right now it's currently only available for those who can get to the actual schedule. So that's super technician and above, right? So managers, admins, and everything else that's above super technicians. And the only reason that implementation or limitation, I should say, brain fart, exists is because when we brought this over, we just wanted to kind of mimic what was in SM6, get feedback on it, and then go from there. We had discussions about bringing it to the technician side. It's a little bit more difficult because technicians aren't necessarily limited by a route, and they also may have very specific tasks and activities that we didn't want to cause confusion on that front as far as mapping their day out and they skip an activity or something like that. But the discussion with Josh was fruitful in the sense, hey, we're looking for, my technician is generally on a route, and his technician view is going to be, job 1, job 2, job 3, job 4, and then day's over. So it makes sense from his point of view to just kind of have a quick, hey, map these all out at once and so forth. So we'll bring that discussion to Ethan. He's been out at the end of this week. We'll have the discussion early next week, and we'll likely be in one of the future releases getting that ported over. So main thing I wanted to show you guys is kind of how the discussion kind of works in these manners, and why SMUG can be such a valuable tool for you guys. Because it really helps us see kind of, those use cases that are going to sort of prioritize one thing over another. So the next post came from Kelsey. It also involved Nate, who was the technician who actually had the issue. And this is kind of what I mentioned before. They had this weird error when they were trying to do the voice input. And I wanted to bring it up mostly because if you guys aren't aware, you can use voice to text when you're taking notes in the mobile app. And if you're anyone who's like me and you're doing massive amounts of notes, it's an incredible feature. It's much, much, much simpler than typing large amounts of notes. So if you weren't aware of that, then go ahead and give it a try next time. But the main thing I wanted to point out is the issue with this particular user is because they were using a non-standard keyboard. And so first off, we'll fix the issue like I mentioned ahead of time. But the second thing is that it's really critical when you guys bring these things to our attention, that if you can think of things like that, and I realize not all of you guys are going to be thinking about an app you installed 6 months ago. I totally get that. I don't remember half the stuff that's on my phone. But when we're debugging, this is the kind of thing that the QA team and myself and so on, when we're trying to solve these issues, is sometimes just go on for weeks and we don't actually find a repro step. That's the kind of thing. That's why it's like, it's not showing up on here on my Android. It's not showing up on here's an Android. We're not getting any of the errors. Oh, it's this one specific keyboard. Boom. Okay, we figured it out. It led to another solution, and there you go. So just kind of one of those things to keep in mind, guys. If we ask for deeper questions on that, I promise you it's not to bug you guys or play harder.
It's not a deterrent.
It's
because we need the info.
Exactly.
We're detectives and we need all of the, we need everything under the magnifying glass. Yeah.
So do appreciate that though. And Nate was great and Kelsey too to work with there. So the next one came from Freddie, and there weren't any responses to this, so I'm going to do Freddie a favor here. There's a post 3 weeks back, I think. He was asking for some feedback on Fiddlebug. I know that we have some SMUG users who are using Fiddlebug. I'm definitely not going to call anyone out specifically. This to be rude. But if any of you guys have any feedback you'd like to post, maybe either find that post from Freddie or kind of start a new post, just kind of generating some discussion on that. The general kind of communicative and community aspect of SMUG, where owners can kind of get feedback like that before they jump into something. It's one of the things we've always liked to kind of highlight, and I'm sure that might help Freddie with his decision one way or the other. So throwing one out there for you, Freddie. The next one came from David. There was an interesting conversation, this is a couple weeks ago, about technician notes, and Joe and I had a lengthy conversation about it. It's definitely something that's kind of on our general kind of purview as far as ways to make potential improvements. But it's talking about multiple tech jobs or multiple day jobs and how you handle the notes. So the tech notes don't transfer to additional scheduled stops, and for this particular user, it's annoying. They have to copy and paste and so forth. And so the general kind of response within the thread was twofold. One, kind of feedback for Joe and I from this particular user, and then also how our current users are handling situations like this. And so I think the more beneficial one for you guys would be the latter, because we definitely want to, potential discussion with some of you on how we can make improvements there. But that note, it was originally designed to be essentially for that specific visit for that specific tech or any tech who was on that specific visit, right? And that's what it was designed for. Anything that was kind of more prolonged would either be handled as an order note or as an order activity. And so that's kind of what the thing I wanted to shine a light on. It's a little bit different process. So if your technicians aren't used to doing it, I realize that is kind of something they have to learn. But we specifically created the activity tied to an order for these scenarios where you guys can have kind of your ongoing notes. The technicians can log in, they can make their updated notes into the activity and so forth. And you can get kind of like basically a log of everything that's been going on if you don't want the notes to be visible to the customer. If you do want the notes to be visible to the customer, essentially showing them what you've been working on each visit, you can simply use the order notes. And those will stick with every appointment that's tied to that order. So
when we say order notes, you don't mean the order note field.
That is what I mean. Yeah.
Okay, because that's pretty short, right? I think the argument there would be that it's not very long.
Well, I mean, the order memo field is like 2,000 some characters.
Okay. I'm just making you defend it. I'm not. I can read the minds of some of our viewers. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I think it's definitely something that we want to address. We've already, like I said, we've had discussions about the multi-day job and what that's like, because a lot of times it's just here are the notes, and you're doing step 1 through 10, but it's going to take you 4 days to do it, right? And so you kind of have to keep the notes moving forward, and they're just crossing off the steps as they go, right? So we totally understand that there is some work to be done there. So bottom line, there's other potential avenues you can pursue. Maybe they work, maybe they don't. But the other thing is that, again, these are the ways that we get those discussions out in front of Joe and I and keep the priority on those higher. So, otherwise, those are the SMUG posts I've got. Have we gotten any comments, any questions anyone wants us to answer while they've got us?
Asher? Nothing, huh?
All right. Well,
that makes it easy.
I hope that at least the ServiceMonster news, the SMUG post, I hope you guys are getting value out of that. We always want to continue to kind of let you guys know what's going on, what's coming up, things like that. But Alan, we're going to talk about that next Q&A. I promise you. We're going to talk about that in the next one. We want to make sure that Brenda has gone through some of the discussions with you, and everything's ironed out on that. So
what I miss?
That there's a new report that came out a couple weeks ago. It's kind of the brainchild of Alan and a couple other users. And I know Alan's happy about it, but I didn't want to shine too bright of a light on it until I know that she's ironed out everything she wants there, Alan. So
yeah, well, how did you get that? Through SMUG or?
No, I mean she released it out a couple weeks ago.
No, not the report, the comment.
Oh, it's on.
There we go.
On the stream.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad it's working out for you though, Alan.
Well, because he's been asking me for that thing for like 5 years.
Yeah.
Right. And every time I look at it, I'm like, oh man, I want to assign some resources to this, but not today. And now it's done. And now he's happy. And I think that it's not perfect, right? We still have a little bit of polish to do or something, but.
Well, the biggest thing is it's only kind of looking at the order as a whole. Alan,
do you want to clue everybody in? What's in a nutshell? Can you give me a 2-sentence explanation of what this report does?
Yeah, so it's looking at basically the man hours for every order. And so you can find out exactly how much you're spending on labor for each of these.
So this is, does this line up with the COGS?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of that. But Alan wanted to take it a step further and really break it down by technician. And the problem with that is the way our reporting thing is set up. I won't go too deep, but you're looking at, a many-to-many relationship. And even if we could handle it as far as the query goes,
right,
it's not going to look formatted well on the report, and it's going to be horrible when you export that to Excel.
Right.
So yeah. But the point is, we've at least got a huge portion of that in for Alan, and we'll be continuing to making improvements to that. I know for one thing, if you have a large amount of text, it does take a little bit longer time to generate. So that's one of the things.
It's a report. Cry me a river. I'm okay. Look, I me with shaving off milliseconds on screen load times, but as far as reporting goes, meh. Because sometimes you got to deep dive. Sometimes you got to make old relationships and look through long history and filter on things that weren't indexed the way that you want them to, because you don't want too many freaking indexes, because then you get save takes too long, right? So it's always a balancing act. I'm never crying about a long running report. My dad used to run reports that took freaking all night. You know what I mean? He'd like start them before he left, and then at 2:00 in the morning he'd get not an email, because they weren't doing emails back then, or dialing on his little boot. We had to plug. This is when they hooked up direct. We had to take the phone and plug it into the rubber boot in order to. And you don't do it backwards, because anyway.
I can neither confirm nor deny if Napster was ever used in my younger days, but it was kind of the.
You still did over dial-up.
Hypothetical situation. You're on dial-up, and it's going to take 8 hours to hypothetically download.
Right.
Just let it go overnight. Hypothetically.
That's right. So sometimes you do longer processes if you want to get the data.
And
That's
Alan
what you're
brought up a
saying.
good point. It took him tons more time to figure that out manually.
There you go.
So yeah.
Yeah. and
glad it's working for you, Alan.
even if it was 1 for 1, let's say it took them an hour and a half to do it and the report took an hour and a half to generate, go get lunch. Like, you don't have to be focused on that hour and a half. There's a value proposition there. You can go do something else, which reminds me, if we do have long running reports, we need to make sure that they're back threaded and then sent notifications so they continue to use the application and do whatever. And then they can go get a downloaded copy of it or what have you. But we don't have any reports that take that long that really require that kind of output. Right. So anyways, it takes what? 10 seconds, 30 seconds.
Yeah. I don't think we've had any that's more than like 25 or 30 seconds.
There you go. Even with long, big companies. So,
yeah, since the cat's out of the bag, Alan is too excited. We got to talk about it. It's called the Invoice Labor Report. If you go to the reports section in SM6, it's in the orders column. So you guys can take a peek at that. And hopefully Brenda doesn't murder me on Monday. But
does this rely on check-in and check-out times, or does it infer it if you don't use check-in and check-out?
Yep, it's going to infer it if you don't use it.
But then it uses the real numbers if you have them.
Absolutely.
And then does it play with that labor hour number at all on the individual employee screen? The hourly rate?
Yeah, no, it uses the hourly rate if you want to do,
if you're using it. Right.
Yep.
If you plug in an hourly rate, it'll give you that. So it really does break down the labor portion of your COGS.
Yep.
Brilliant. Which is the lion's share, right? It's like 90%. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for your attention. We do these once a month, so look out for them. Usually target Thursday, but it's a sliding scale. Who needs consistency? We aren't doing the ServiceMonster podcast anymore, so we moved the portion that is meaty with ServiceMonster updates and SMUG to this little venue, so we can do live conversation with you guys and answer your questions and so forth. We will be firing up another podcast series. It's already pre-slated for 3 seasons, 10 episodes a season. And that's called the Businessist Podcast. And everybody and their freaking brother's got a podcast nowadays. And we're not trying to get your attention just because of the podcast. We have an ulterior motive. The content from this podcast is very specific towards I won't call it a product, but it certainly feels like a product, right? We're positioning it like a product. It's big, it's beefy, it's taking a lot of freaking effort. We're spending a lot of resources on it. I'm not going to ask you for money for it. That's the difference. That's not why I can't call it a product. But it's a host of basically business diagnostics and self-help stuff. And that all of the content we create, the podcast will also generate content which will go onto that system. So you get the benefit of the podcast, but then also the good stuff that really comes out of those podcasts are going to go into this system, which essentially has 30 topic-rich ways to help drive your business and your goals and where your pain points are. And it's all free. The whole plan is just to kick it out to you guys. It's going to take us a minute. Asher and I are kind of doing the heavy lifting right now. We're getting the core content put together. Like I put some of the basic technology, but we're going to do a couple of these podcasts before we kick it out to you guys to see it. But we're excited about it. So that's what's happened to the ServiceMonster podcast, right? It's now got split, and we're taking our business philosophy and basically putting it in a box for you guys so you can get the content you need when you need it. You don't have to go fishing through Ask ServiceMonster video 64 where I drop the nugget 3 minutes in, right? This will be, here's the nugget on that topic on this page surrounded by a whole bunch of stuff about that topic. And we know your pain. We talk about it a lot with you guys. So keeping you up to date on the media front as well, right? I'm not trying to make the biggest podcast. We don't need to be driving the Gary Vee model anymore. There's too many people on that train. We're just going to give you amazing material to help you grow your business, whether that's the product and we're good at, let's face it, we are good at creating media. It's not as interesting as watching whatever else you want to watch, right? So we're not going to take up too much more of your time. Thanks, everybody. Be safe.